All right, so a quick little review. The first time we look at 14104, I gave you an example of table 13. I'll just quickly review it. So we had a continuous loading, 200 amp continuous load and 135 amp continuous load using 3 conductor cable and 80% rated overcurrent devices. I can only load the cable and the breaker to 80%. So I either select the overcurrent device and multiply it by 0.8, or I take the load, multiply it by 1.25, and that gives me the minimum ampacity of the breaker and the conductor. All right? So I've got the example there of 200, and I've got the example here of 135 amps. So 200 amp continuous load, 135 amp continuous load. Multiply it by 1.25. That gives me the minimum ampacity of the wire and the fuse. That just so happens to fall in table 13. We'll go up here. You can look up here on the overhead. You'll see that a 250 amp fuse, we have a listing for it. That is the minimum ampacity of the wire and the fuse. No ifs, ands, buts. You can't use this lower rating here. This one shows a better example of how to use table 13. 135 amp continuous load, 80% rated circuit breaker, multiply it by 1.25. That gives me the minimum ampacity of the wire and the overcurrent device, fuse or breaker. There is no 168.75 amp fuse or breaker. I go to table 13, allows me to select the 175 amp overcurrent device, and that is the minimum ampacity of the wire. It takes out the 151. And allows me to use 168.75 amp conductor on 175 amp overcurrent device. That's the application of table 13 as long as I'm in section 8. That's critical in sub-rule 1. All right, back to the rule. So that takes care of 14104 sub-rule 1A when we're in section 8 using table 13. Then B says, in the case of equipment wire flexible cord in sizes number 16, number 18, and number 20 copper, and tinsel cord, which are considered protected by a 15 amp overcurrent device. So tinsel cord, they use that in extension cords for appliances, etc. It's just a flat conductor, much like the tinsel cord that you put on your Christmas tree. That's really kind of what it looks like. Then we have 14104 sub-rule 1C, where it says, as provided for by other rules of this code. So in the code book, we have other rules for overcurrent for different areas. And where do they reside? Well, we have section 26 for transformers. So dielectric field transformers, power transformers, dry type transformers, and instrument transformers as well. We have overcurrent protection rules in there. 28200 are overcurrent protection rules for motors. 62114 are heating overcurrent rules. And 26210 are capacitor overcurrent rules. So that's what applies to C. Then, when we come down to sub-rule 2, it tells us here, except as provided for by sub-rule 1C, the rating of overcurrent protection shall not exceed 15 amps for number 14 AWG copper, 20 amps for number 12 AWG copper, 30 amps for number 10 AWG copper, 15 amps for number 12 aluminum, and 25 amps for number 10 aluminum. Now, this is part you got to understand, you guys. If we just take a quick peek here at 4-004 in table 2, when we look here, it's very restrictive. Unless you're in these other rules as the code, the maximum breaker size that you can put on a number 14 is 15 amps. And when you come to table 2, if I'm using NMD 90, say 14.2 Lumex, etc., take a look at the ampacity rating here for number 14, 25 amps. That might be in the table, but this is part, you guys, what you have to understand. It's critical that you understand this rule, all right? Because it's very limited. Even though the conductor is rated for 25 amps at 90 degrees, all that means is if I pump 25 amps of load through that number 14, the temperature the conductor is going to reach is 90 degrees. You see these little goofy signals, insignias here by the letters. Let's go see what it says at the bottom of the table. C14104 subrule 2. All right? So don't be confused. When we get into here, these are the maximum current that the conductor can carry safely. It doesn't mean that you can do it. We must comply with all these rules. 14104, 8-104, 4-004, and the termination temperature rule. All right? All right.